Hey everybody, I am Tish Hicks, the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo, and this is our free monthly webinar called Ask the Sensei. Well, usually our techno sensei, Dan Leonard, is with us, but he has a booking this morning. So if you have tech questions that you want to ask, type them in the questions, the Q&A box, and I'm going to email them to him later, and he'll get back to you. So apologies for that, but that's what happens when working pros are working. And we're really lucky that Laila has a moment in her busy schedule that she's not working. But our guest sensei today is Laila Berzins, who is my friend and colleague and wonderful, amazing soul. And she does everything, but she does everything well, but I love having watched Laila just come. The first time I met her, she's like, I'm here and I'm going for animation, and she's just done. So she's pretty amazing. And I'll let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you're doing in a second, Laila. Just want to get everyone oriented. Fantastic. Look at how many people are here. This is great. If you're just joining in and haven't already, there's a poll up that is your voiceover journey in progress. This helps us know how to gauge our answers in terms of what level people are working on. It looks like we have a really nice blend of people at all ranges. So this is great. This is a question and answer sort of webinar. So your questions are essential. There is a Q&A box in the bottom menu. So that is where we'll be taking answers from. Or questions from. We'll be giving answers. We'll be taking questions from there. Yeah, and if you want to in the chat, say where you're typing in from, calling in from, typing in from. It's always a great thing to see how wide and far people are coming from. So awesome. So we have one question from Ophelia. Ophelia Del Corazon, that's it. Well, actually, you know what? Before we go to questions, let's introduce Laila. Oh, yeah.
Good morning. There's a lot of thinking and words.
Yes.
Words of sentences and.
Yeah, Laila, tell us a little bit about what you're up to.
Sure thing. I just want to say, Tish, you are amazing. Thank you for doing all these and for the resources you provide, because VO Dojo rocks. No shameless plug. Okay, now. So I am Laila Berzins. I am a full-time voice actor. Been doing voiceover for 10 years now. I can't believe I'm that. Oh, no. And I'm originally from Connecticut. Moved out here 5 years ago. Long story short, I was my demo producer, Roy Yokelson of Antland Productions. Check him out, antlandproductions.com. He was my mentor, and he worked on a movie with a producer who heard my demo and sent it to a producer at Disney. So I had an opportunity to come out to do a general audition March 2013. And that week that I was out there, I was like, I'm going to schedule meetings. I'm going to get a general audition at Nickelodeon. For those who don't know, general audition is just when you go in and you read several pieces of copy to show the agency what you can do. It's not like an audition for an exact job, but it's to kind of get on their radar. So I scheduled a whole bunch of meetings, went to events, scheduled lunches. And by this, I came in on a Monday. By Wednesday of that week, I was able to start on trial with Atlas Talent. So I said, give me a month and I will move out here. Fast forward to 5 years from now, I'm with Vox Talent, which seemed to be a better fit. And I've learned a lot over the course of that time, especially moving from Connecticut to LA, in terms of what you have to do to be competitive. I think I wasn't ready when I first came out here to be with one of those top agencies, but going through all of that and learning and then backing up and regrouping allowed me to kind of just keep on honing my craft. And I'm very grateful to say that now I'm working in a whole bunch of new cartoons and games that I can't talk about yet, but they're for big networks, and they all come out next year. And by next year, my dream is actually really coming true, that I'll be able to like watch myself on TV and my other dream is really dorky, but I want to have a stuffed animal of my characters on my bed. I was the kid who always, like, if you had a magazine drive, I wanted the stuffed animals. Like, I had stuffed animals on my bed, and I put sunglasses on each one of them. I was total dork. Nothing has changed. So I'm here to kind of chat with you guys and answer questions best I can, and tell you about my journey, and see if I can offer any pearls of wisdom or insight from what I've gone through.
Yeah, and I'm here to answer all questions too. So whatever questions are on your mind, we'll just give you our take on it. If you have a tech question, just say it's a tech question. And our Techno Sensei Dan Leonard is usually on these calls, so it's also a monthly resource if you have that tech question. So yeah, let's go to what questions there are.
Let that nerd flag fly. Yes, I will.
Yeah. Okay, so we got some check-ins on the question answer. We got a tech call. Okay, so you started to answer this question from James. What was the number one thing you did to get started in animation? It sounded like you went for it is the number one.
Yeah, it was, to really get started, it was getting being on the roster of one of the big agencies that gets the auditions, so you can actually be heard. But I will say that if you start with one of the smaller agencies in LA, like if you're living in the LA area and that's what you want to do, don't take it as, why am I doing this? Nobody's going to listen, blah, blah, blah. Take it as this is the time to practice and crunch, so that when you get the really big agent, then you can be like, okay, it's go time. Now I know what to do, because I think it was a blessing in disguise. But yeah, I met with as many people, working pros that I could, to women in animation events, network. And then when then I would connect with casting directors that I either met at events or follow up with them, try to stay on their radar. And then it was just a matter of training, getting coached regularly, going to workauts, and then slowly things started to happen, and it took a long time, but it does happen when you stick with it and you have a good attitude.
It also seems like, in addition, you do everything, so you have a little bit, but it really seems like that was like your boom. That's what I'm going for, which is, I think that knowing what you're going after specifically in that way is a really helpful thing. Joni, hey Joni, asked, did you have training for the demo with Uncle Roy, or did you have another coach too?
I had quite a bit of training. I initially, when I was living in Connecticut, I got my preliminary training at Edge Studios. And I tell people who are interested in Edge, I found them fantastic for general education and those sorts of things, and classes. For demos, I always go to Uncle Roy, Roy Yokelson. Everyone calls him Uncle Roy, just because I felt like we had a better fit in terms of how I was, because he knew me, he knew my style. So I trained with all sorts of different coaches from over there, and then I started finding coaches in the LA area. And there's, in terms of how, I'm trying to think about the best way to explain how to go about doing that. Usually you'll end up going to workshops, and then you'll find out who coaches and who doesn't. Marilyn Wissner does workshops also, voice casting. Voice Tracks West. And so you have Meet the Pro workshops where you can connect with people. Tish Hicks has her VO Dojo where you can connect with people. And sometimes they as well do coaching. The voiceover workout groups, which is here in LA, I have found a couple groups of people that gather weekly to practice copy, and some people also provide those services individually.
Yeah, yeah. So it's getting everything in motion. It's good. Let's go back up to the top and right. Got that. That's good. Royal Joiner in Atlanta asks, "What's needed for an animation demo?"
What's needed for an? Oh, that's a good question. What I've heard, it's a couple different things. Obviously, you want to have something that shows your range, but the primary thing is you want to have. It's not a bunch of silly voices. You want to have well-established characters that you can say, you know, this is, like, I actually name my characters once I know who they are. You know, this is Granny Prozac. This is Larry from the Bronx. This is, you know who they are. You know what their laugh is, what their favorite food is, what makes them tick. So once you kind of figure out what your best most showcase-worthy characters are, then you put them together on a demo, and what you want on the demo is something that not only shows your range, but also most casting directors want a character arc. You always want to have something in your original voice. That's very important, and usually that's up front, as close to up front as possible. But it's usually what Tish, would you say, like five? It's usually like 5 to 7 seconds, 4 to 6 seconds, showing a clear character arc for each character that you're portraying. It's not just like, hey, I'm gonna do some silly stuff, and now I'm gonna do this voice, and now I'm gonna do it. It's all about.
It's really about what are they after, and if you can find that little moment, that's just that little moment that is in a nutshell, that embodies everything. And you can reverse engineer as you're creating your characters, or going like, oh, this is like my character. If you think about any iconic cartoon character, right? You can dissect it and say, okay, what are they after, and how does it become the through line of everything, and what are the variations of that? So if you can capture that in a little snip that we get a taste of it, but also like, oh, I know that character, and not just a catchphrase, right? You can pepper a catchphrase in there, but a catchphrase without understanding the character, right? Yeah, what's up, Doc? Doesn't mean anything unless you understand all that Bugs Bunny's about, right?
What the character wants is the most important.
Yeah, exactly. It's about bringing it fully to life. It's more about the heart than the voice, and then the voice becomes an extension of that, right? Here's something that I think is an interesting thing to observe too. On animation demos, there's archetypes of characters. So in some way, you want to make sure that you touch on, oh, this is my version of these archetypes, or these archetypes are in my wheelhouse. But then also, what can you be doing to make yours stand out, right? So it's this combination of covering what we all need to do.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that, Laila?
No, I mean, I definitely agree. And you have to also be careful with archetypes, because you don't want to do something that's too generic, like the evil witch or things like that, because everybody's going to do that. But if you have an evil witch that's like Julia Child, and she has a complex, like a motherly complex, something that makes it more original, something that doesn't make it just inside the box, then certainly showcase it. So there's a lot of different ways that you can come up with characters if you're just starting out, other than looking at the image, combining, sometimes combining different impressions of can create something. as well. So if you've got a great Kermit the Frog and you've got a great, you know, moaning Myrtle from Harry Potter or something, you could combine the two and create something completely different.
Right.
That's the way. But it's allowing yourself to play. It's experimenting.
Yeah.
Figuring out, you know, like what are the, you know, you can definitely start by writing out archetypes to kind of get an idea of where you want to branch out from. And then the more you practice with character copy, the more you can kind of figure out, oh, I really, you know, for me, it was actually reading scripts and being like, I really liked what I did when I played with that. Maybe I can alter this script and make it my own, make something different, you know, give this character something now that I know what they want. So a lot of times it's great to actually just look at real animation copy so you can get your ideas flowing rather than just being like, what's in my vast brain can I create?
Although when I did my first animation demo, I studied pretty extensively with Pat Fraley when I was beginning.
Oh, it's wonderful.
20 so years ago. And he's really a genius in terms of if you have a chance to work, when you have a chance to work with him, not if. But so I had a really solid foundation, and I actually did exercises as I was ready, created exercises for myself that I had a roll of toilet paper. And one day I was just doodling with a Sharpie and just like drew some characters and then voiced them all. So there was a talking toilet, and that became sort of the building the muscle and just the being able to play. And then my first demo was actually stuff that I wrote. I worked with Sue Blue, one of the best animation directors ever, to do my demo. But I brought her the characters that were really from my heart too. And just to wrap up this, because we got tons of questions now. Yay! Just in terms of the logistics of it, it's still 1 minute. Nobody has any time to listen to anything else. What's your opinion, Laila, about produced and just voices, or level of production?
I think, okay, so my view is every single spot doesn't have to have a series of different background sounds and effects. If it fits the piece, that's great. I know some people that have produced demos where there are some voices completely in the clear. It's real, as long as it's not overproduced, and as long as the whatever is adding to the performance doesn't distract. That's because I've heard demos that there's just too much going on and they can't focus on the voice. You want to be able to just focus on the voice. So I'm of the opinion that it could either be you know, lightly produced, nothing too crazy, or it could be produced and have certain elements that are in the clear.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Mostly like anything, if you're really going to do this professionally, really highly recommend working with someone who knows animation demos really professionally. So Roy, we work with Next Level demo producer, Next Level Demos, Brittany Cox and Ryan Ricks. Susan at Voice Tracks West here is a great animation demo producer. So if you're going to do it, do it. Great questions. And you know, you guys, if there's anything that that you have further questions, feel free to contact me and email me afterwards. Let's see. Did you do any other types of VO before going to animation? Asks Greg.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I would say so. The when people think of voiceover, I think initially the brain goes to commercial, cartoons, those sorts of things. But 80% of the work is in narration. You can get quite a bit of work in corporate narration, explainer videos. There's e-learning. When I first started out and I had no agents and I was just connecting with people on LinkedIn and things like that, it was, hey, can you read for this video about our company? Can you, narrate the script, the kind of we're going to use to send to potential buyers? Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of narration. As I started getting regional agents in smaller markets, I was doing some more commercial work, but the bulk of the work that I do on a regular basis is corporate narration and commercial. And then the other side of it is auditioning all the time through my agents for cartoons and games. So at any given time, I'm auditioning for promo, narration, commercial, animation, games, and then occasional grab bag things. But that's there was a lot of, and in the beginning it was you know, learning how to really not, I describe it as the cosmetic read versus the natural read. In the beginning, I was too focused on I was too perfectionistic, and I was too focused on how do I sound? How am I sounding in this? So I remember I did this old a narration long ago, and it was like, "Welcome to Chameleon Sports Studio," da, 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 da. And it was so. I listened back and I'm like, oi.
I love that articulation of cosmetic versus natural. At the dojo, we talk about sharing rather than reading, but I love that image of like, oh, it's so.
It's like, yes, oh, I'm just, and learning how to not record with headphones. I never record with headphones because then if I do, I'm examining, unless I'm in a session and they need, I'll put one ear on, one ear off, because it's so easy to get critical of what you're doing, and then you're not in the moment, you're not playing, you're not talking to one person. So
right. And we can do a little exercise here. I think I might have done this on Ask the Sensei before. This is what I call poor man's cans. So headphones are called cans for those of you at the lower levels. So do this at home, and then talk and see how your voice is in the room and you are a part of the room. Now put your hands like this and talk and see what the experience is like. It's kind of like, wow, my voice sounds
whoa
good. Wow. It's my voice and I can really hear it. And suddenly I'm like totally forgetting that you guys are here because it's just my voice and it sounds really, really good. So you can kind of, that's what happens. And it's a paradox working with cans or without cans, because when you're in a session, you need cans on. You know, like Laila said, you can take one off to keep that experience of in the room. But yeah, no, it's an interesting thing. I usually have people develop their skills without, and then adjust to with, which is a little segue. Great. Here's a really practical question, and this is the lovely thing. I love these calls because there's so many questions, there's the like really organic, holistic ones, like how do you like connect up, and how do you feel, and how do you find your ins, and then there's like really technical things like mouth clicks. So problem with mouth clicks. This is Ophelia again. I love that you're asking so many questions. It's good. Keep hydrated, avoid coffee, any other mouth technique, exercises, or resources?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked this. Okay. So there are a couple things that work really well for me. I used to, for those who don't have a problem with fruit, I tend to be sensitive to certain fruits. Green apples are the best because the tannins in the apple naturally will get rid of the mouth clicks. So just having a bite, if you do that, have a bite of the apple, don't drink water immediately afterwards, the mouth clicks will come back. So it's in between, but obviously stay hydrated. Drinking, I drink, let me see, I'm trying to think. I mean, tea can actually cause mouth clicks. So you have to be careful with that. Just room temperature water is great. And I also have done what Debbie Derryberry does, because she doesn't do green apples either, which is you take barbecue potato chips, or you can even do, if you don't want the potato chips, they also make like barbecue pop chips, the rice chips. Anything barbecue apparently also helps with mouth clicks. I've tried it. I don't know why, but it works. And then there's those are I think the primary things that work for me. Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to add on that, Tish?
I'm trying to think. I don't usually, just keeping my mouth, understanding that it's the whole mechanism of keeping things, keeping the saliva going. So sometimes if you just, chew a little, you can get that going. And then also, there's sometimes that mouth clicks are just something physiological. One of our dojo members is like, what is that? So if it's something that's really, really consistent, it might be worthwhile to talk to your dentist, or check in with a speech pathologist and go, what is this? Eat an apple before you make an appointment with a speech pathologist. But, try the apples and the chips first. But yeah, there's also a great resource here in LA. It's like a little secret gem called what is it called? Toluca Lake mailboxes, I think.
Yes.
And it's like this little secret voice care pharmacy in the back of a mailbox place. Is it mailboxes? No.
Yeah, I think it's mailbox. I think it's called Mailbox Toluca Lake, or if you just search Toluca Lake, it's something like that. It's in what looks like a mail facility, but inside is this whole arsenal of voice care products.
And they ship things out to anyone, anywhere. So then you can talk to them. It's great. Good.
I want to just add one other thing about vocal care and things like that, tricks that I use. Especially for long periods of narration, games and animation that tax out your voice. So I do a couple things. I go to Sprouts and I get the peppermint throat spray. I use that all day long, pretty much. That's one of the things to coat my throat. If you tend to have morning voice and you need to get rid of that fairly quickly, you can gargle with salt water. It also kills the bacteria in your throat and helps prevent you from getting sick. I always do herbal tea in the morning, not something that's not caffeinated, and I just keep drinking tea throughout the day. If you can, you want to drink at least 16 ounces of water before you even get in the booth. That helps a lot.
I have a gallon that I just drink all day long.
Yeah, and I have to drink extra water in the morning because I go swimming every morning. It's lovely. So that really will dry it out. So yeah, having those sprays it also works tremendously well. And then just obviously staying away from cold beverages, because that'll
right. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Shrinkage. Right.
And menthol can do that too. I stay away from menthol. Some people are more sensitive to it than others, but it can have that effect on the vocal cords. It can actually dry it out sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, Christine, Toluca is Toluca, Toluca Lake, California. So that's that. Good. Let's see, what else we got here? There seems to be a theme of questions about what do you do if you don't live in LA. So I'm going to sort of combine those. So Royal asks, is LA the only place to book animation gigs? Ted will get to your specific question. Ted's in St. Louis. Karen asks, if you're not in LA, how did you get going in Connecticut? Martin asks, as a Chicago actor, what opportunities besides LA do you need to move if you want to keep growing? And
great question.
And then location. location.
So
let's see that, and then I think and then we can segue to Catherine's question, which is she also has a question about location too. So LA versus wherever you are.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So when I was living in Connecticut, my number one goal initially was just before I had any agents was just connect with search for production companies, video production companies, commercial production companies, folks that might have small businesses that need them promoted, anything that I could search for that had to do with production, and then just say hello and connect with them and try to stay on their radar. Very, very soft sell, just establishing a relationship. And then, I think it also helped that I managed some LinkedIn groups back then. If you can create a LinkedIn group that pertains to your work, then you have an easy passive way of networking. I was doing grunt work for a producer that managed two groups, and then he was like, "Do you want to just take over these groups? I don't have time." So I ended up by default doing that. In terms of agents, you do not have to have an agent or several agents to find work. It's always great to have agents is one tool in your arsenal. I think I have like 10 agents, but only 4 to 6 of them send me stuff regularly. And then I'm reaching out. I try to reach out internationally. If you're in Chicago, if you're in the East Coast, Midwest, you can find regional agents all over the place. I mean, I have agents in New York, Texas, Chicago, Minnesota, LA, Kansas City, Kansas,
66,
Baltimore. So finding the big markets, small, and also when you're first starting out, smaller, like searching for boutique talent agencies, regional boutique. That's a great way to get your feet wet. LinkedIn is a great resource. There are many people that use, when they're first starting out, sites like Voice123. I tell people to stay away from voices.com because they have, it's a very long story, but they've done some really sleazy things to talent.
They're unethical.
They're unethical, in short. So, so that's hopefully gives you an idea. And then it's, there's always going to be work available. It's figuring out, what you want, how you want to market yourself, what you want to work on. But again, when you're first starting out, narration, when you want to get an agent, it's very important to first have a commercial demo. That's going to be kind of the key. But commercial, narration, those are especially narration. Those are going to be ones that get you through, because people always need a video narrated. People always need something like that. And then the really fun stuff comes,
Well, I think at the heart of what Laila is saying, and this is a great mindset to have about everything you do, right? A lot of it is getting your skill set up, understanding how the business works and how to approach, how to present yourself as a working pro. But a lot of it and everything, this is the through line from day one to 20 plus years where I am, it's about relationships. So if you can start where you're at, wherever that is, if it's St. Louis or Maine or Atlanta or anywhere, and go, okay, who do I know? And everybody knows somebody. And if you don't know somebody, then how can I methodically go down the street and go, who do I know? I know the dry cleaner. I wonder if they're doing any advertising or have anything. Oh, or if you work, like Laila said, if you're working in another industry, if you have expertise. I work in the real estate industry. Well, let's think outside of the box. What needs, sizzle reels are all the thing. They can pay well, they can pay not very much, but it's a place to start. Is there something within the industry that that you can parlay your expertise to? I'll do an explainer video about that. Hell yeah. And then it's about relationships. And ultimately, even when you have an agent, my entire career, 7 years as the voice of Citibank, 7 years as the voice of Subaru. I've just been doing recurring work for Rockstar Video in New York, and I have a guy calls me directly, and it's relationship. It's being good and building the relationships where you're at, and then always. And that's the mindset that you have to think about. And can you give me some more? Hey, my kid plays baseball too. Dogs, I love dogs. Hey, I'm LGBTQ. LGBTQ too. Wow, what can we work on together? And then get to know people. And then how can you help with your service, right? If you were, yeah. So that's enough. That's enough about that. But
just branching off of the other question I saw, which was, do you have to be in LA to do animation? The big animation areas are LA and New York. If you're in Texas, you can possibly work for Funimation. But if you really want to work in animation, like for the big clients like Disney, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, you have to be in LA. There is some, I don't know how the animation market is in New York, comparably. But I know for out here, yeah, it's LA, New York.
But that doesn't mean you can't be doing stuff where you're at.
Yes, definitely.
There's so much stuff that's being produced, or if animation is your thing, make your own thing. Hello, South Park. Hello. on TV right now. Like make it yourself is a way to start. But in general, if your dream is to be a Disney princess in animation, then get your butt out here and start working with Nibblot. But you don't come out here. Well, do come out here if that is the thing that you're after. Eventually, the road will need to lead there. Right now, just because things happen fast, and people work with people they know and trust. That's it. And so you have to get to build a relationship, right? You got to be talented, and then you got to be able to build a relationship with the agents who have the relationships with the people. So you can also make direct relationships with the people.
Definitely. And so you're right. There is Nickelodeon in New York. It's been a while.
So, but if you want it, with all of this voiceover thing, guys, if you want it, go after it. Like, what if, obviously, for just, not being homeless reasons, the reality of building your career is, I often liken it to a gestation period, right? You conceive this idea, and then you got 9 months of growing and building your skills, at least 9 months. 9 months to a year is usually about it. But these cells divide into these, and then little hands sprout out, and then nervous system, and then it grows. So you have this thing, but then you have an infant. And you have this you birth your demo, and you have this infant. And you would not go to your baby unless you live in LA, which you might go like, hey, get on the TV show. We're gonna get your kid, but you don't go, hey baby, okay, pay my mortgage. Come on, baby. So you have to factor in, like any business. Like any business, it's going to take some time to segue to make it your sole support. So once again, if your vision is animation is the way I want to make my living, which people who do animation also do everything else, in terms of what's happening in the business and how payment models are shifting and things are happening. There was just recently a strike authorization for the animation world, because every time the technology changes, they're like, oh, we can't pay you that. It's a new technology. And we have to go like, dudes, it's the same work. Yeah, we're going to get paid. So it's really funny having been doing this for a long time. It's like, oh, here we go again. Okay.
Especially with all the stuff with streaming services now.
Yeah, no, I was shocked. I was so like, book stinking dirty, Disney through Amazon. Yeah, and I was like, new media. What? Like, that's not very much money at all. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the realities that helpful. Sue has a corollary question. She's in New York, where there's limited animation work, but animation work. Here the auditions come through a legit agent, not a commercial agent. Is that true in LA? I think usually depending on how the agency is structured, there's usually people who cover different genres. But it's usually through your voiceover. Is usually how it works. Any other insights?
Yeah, that's pretty much right. Everything that I get comes through a voiceover agent specifically, and again, those agents usually send multiple different genres. For LA, I have somebody who sends me. For my LA agent, I have somebody who specializes in an animation and gaming agent. So if I book something or I get a message about something through her, she'll reach out to me directly, and then I have somebody who sends me an agent that sends me just commercial narration promo type stuff. And then so sometimes you'll be in an agency and they'll have multiple people in different departments that will send you stuff that their specialty is, so that I reach out to this person when I have a question about this, or I want to know, do you know this contact, those sorts of things.
Right. Another, so many thoughts, like, and there's some agencies here, like we had Portia Scott from Coast to Coast Talent, at Fight Club. For the first time, we had an agent at Fight Club, because usually it's the decision makers. So the people who the agent would be sending to is usually who we have as guests at Fight Club. But Portia's really focused on animation. So that's a great sort of boutique-y agency if animation is what you're after. Talking to Portia Scott at Coast to Coast would be a great place to start. Or if you see her teaching or being available at any time, that, you know, those are great things. There was something else.
I hope the leaf blowers aren't too bad. They're just going to be here for a few more minutes.
You can barely hear them.
Okay,
there was some other gem that went through my head, but it went out again too. So, excellent. Let's see what else we got. These are great questions, guys. Really super, super good. Royal asked, how do you schedule general auditions? Good question.
Well, back in the day, I'm not even sure if Disney or Nickelodeon currently do. I know that Nickelodeon no longer does general auditions. It was something they did a few years ago where they would have people come in and the same thing with Disney. I would have to inquire to find out. That was sort of this thing that if, they were doing for a while. I don't know, Tish, if you've encountered that any companies around are still doing that. Because now I think, for the most part, everything just gets sent to the agents, and then we send stuff from home.
Yeah, I think that it's about having your, like, when you have an agent here, like, I'm just doing it. If you articulate what you need from your agent, then you can like create a teamwork of like, all right, so how are we going to do this? I'm interested in working on this project. How do we work together? And then it's consistently showing up like, boom, I'm in there. Boom, I'm in there. Boom, I'm in there. So, yeah, but you know how you can call places and say, hey, do you do general auditions? Or how, you just going back to, if you want this,
yep.
What if this is the only, I didn't finish that thought. What if this was the only way that you could make money? Like if you had to feed your family only from making phone calls and going like, hey, the only skill I actually have is using my voice. I have nothing, my body does not move. I just use my voice and my brain and my heart. What can I do for you? And what will you pay me? Like, and here's what I charge, right?
Or call and ask if they're accepting demos, just call, very, very non-intrusive. Hey, just wanted to know, and that way it's easy yes or no question.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we're getting down to the 15 minutes and there's so many juicy, good questions. Let's see. Ted, I wanted to address yours, your question, non-union working on my own in St. Louis. Who do I contact at TV stations? So I think, first of all, you need, like any place where you're crossing the line on broadcast, understand that broadcast is the cousin of voiceover. So if you want to go into broadcast, you will be able to read ads and do things like that, but it's different than doing voiceover. And the skill set is different. The relationships are different. How it works is different. That being said, they're related. So if you have skills in voiceover, or you have skills in broadcast, you can figure out how to blend the medium. I just taught a week-long workshop at the Maine Media Workshop in Maine, funny enough. And one of the guys who I met there is a big broadcaster in Canada. He's continuing to work with the dojo, but it's really interesting because we're just breaking down that broadcast musculature and adjusting to this medium. He's got all the skills, it's just adjusting them. So that's the first question. Which way are you going in terms of the broadcast? And then what do you want to do at the TV station? So if you want to do promos, if you want to do like affiliate promos, then call and say, who does your affiliate promos? If you want to do local commercials, who does that? A lot of that stuff is at home, the in-house, like the DJs will do that. But also just start making phone calls, start asking questions, and ask questions and have people tell you stuff. And then the next time who's the media buy manager, or who handles the You know, right. So you start learning from asking questions as well. Any thoughts on that?
No, I think that's spot on. The more questions you ask, the more you're going to get back, and you just never know who you're going to connect with.
Exactly. Which also goes back to this the running theme here. To me seems really relationships. Also, wherever you are, always be kind and considerate and full-hearted, and take everybody you meet in at wherever level they are, because the person who is the receptionist at the front desk is
just gonna say,
going to be your agent in 5 years. No kidding. It happens all the time. At my agency, there was just a big shift, and the guy who's been working his butt off and doing such a great job on the desk is now an agent. So everybody you meet at the radio station, everyone you meet everywhere, just be kind and full-hearted, and ask them their dreams, and probably they have them just like you do, and everyone can come up together. But it's really, really important. Let's dig into Catherine's sort of in-depth question here, and we'll get to as many of other questions that we have in the time too. So Catherine says, when you say you didn't know what it meant at first to be competitive, can you elaborate? What were the things you needed to grasp and wrap your mind around most? She's based in New York, and know there's a lot of Nickelodeon, did Nickelodeon series before, didn't have a demo. What's a good way to incorrect? Yeah, and you're an agent. I mean, in terms of that, Catherine, again, just know who you're at Abrams in New York, so just talk to who's covering animation and say, hey, I want to reignite my relationship with Nickelodeon, and then talk to Nathia at the EIF, the Entertainment Industry Foundation, and say, hey, has anyone from Nickelodeon ever come to teach at the SAG Foundation thing? Start generating it yourself. So that would be my thing. But I'll let Laila, I'll let you articulate more about what you meant. Didn't know what at first it was to be competitive, and now you do.
I think it was more in terms of, I was 5 years into my experience, but in terms of actual regular animation and gaming training, I was still very green when I first came out here. Mm-hmm. So I think being prepared for the caliber of talent I was competing against, and really kind of having, I guess being comfortable to give myself permission to play, and really understanding, if I'm reading for this network, what kind of read are they looking for? Are they looking for more realistic? Are there certain networks that you can be a little bit more cartoony with, like Disney, those sorts of things I learned through experience. And it just, in the beginning, I was still finding my feet in terms of just, and again, it was about character development, figuring out, looking at the copy. Richard Horvitz is a fantastic. He says, once you know why you say what you say, then you're informed and have permission to play. Looking at the copy and saying, okay, what is my character's mission statement? What is their want? What is the one thing that in every single line of this I can add that want to the end of their sentence and it makes sense. Once I know that, then I'm no longer acting. I'm no longer saying, hey, look at me, look what I can do. I'm showing off. It's just, I'm being the character. I'm existing in the character's body. It's learning not only to perform, to not focusing on, okay, what kind of voice am I going to do? What am I going to do here? It's about, okay, what is going on with who is this character? How do they walk? How do they stand? What makes them quirky? Do they have, there are ways you can kind of break that down, but more than anything, it's what do they want and why are they saying what they're saying? And you can always find that in the copy. Mm-hmm. So now what I do is I look at the script first, and I look at what they're saying, and I try to figure out that why statement, and then I go back to the specs and pull things. But I use that only as a guideline, and I always try to figure out, you can do something. You can always do something that's more akin to what you think the specs are implying, and then you can do a complete 180 and you might have because you gave yourself permission to do that, you might end up with a really amazing take two, because you gave yourself permission to be like, hey, it doesn't even matter. I'm just gonna, what if they were, like, what if, just coming up with random ideas, like, what if I just did something completely different, and you could be, there's several ways you can go about doing that. One exercise I've done recently is you write your I am and I am not. And you can be everything from just like, for myself, I am Latvian. I am not a mushroom. I am, it's like all these just, and you just list voices. I am passionate. I am, and then you can create, the sky's the limit in terms of what you can or can't be. And then you can take those ideas and adjectives and combine 2 or 3 of them to be like, I'm a German, religious, perfectionist who also loves jazz. Like, just combining things sometimes when you're stuck is a great way of coming up with a new character. And be like, well, what if I just tried something completely different? That helps me too. If you get stuck in your head and you're like, oh, but I really know it's supposed to sound like this, or don't look at a character and be like, that's not for me, and I don't look like the character, I don't sound like the character. There are very few times when I will tell myself that I won't do. There's only one time, really, 1 or 2 times that I will say, this is, you should know what your strengths are. The only times I will be like, I don't know if I should do this one is if it's a princess, because I'm not going to book a princess. I might book the villain. I might book the badass sister. I might book the Fiona. But I'm not going to book the really girly character, because that's just not where I land. So it's also realizing in the beginning, I was just like, I have to do everything. I can't ever let an opportunity pass me by. But it's also being like, hey, well, okay, does this feel right? Does this fit me? And that's also really important when you're doing something. Because sometimes if it doesn't feel right, figure out why that is, or maybe, if it just doesn't work, you do have permission to say to your agent, this isn't a good fit. And I do that occasionally. I'll be like, pass. Really, really give yourself permission to say no sometimes. And that's hard, especially in the beginning. That's a whole other topic.
Yeah, there's lots of it.
I gotta do everything. And like, no, you can give your,
In terms of Catherine's thing, the things that I'm hearing, one of the metaphors I use at the dojo is, to break into voiceover, you need to be able to get on the freeway going 85 miles an hour with people who have been driving the Autobahn for 25 years. So if you just put it in that context of being a new driver, can you do it? Yes. What will make you more equipped to do it, right? And can you do it on a scooter? No. That would be dangerous. I mean, there's nothing dangerous about voiceover, but if you keep on putting it in that, are you ready? And then think about what it takes to be ready as a driver to just get on the freeway, and then even as an Angelino for 20 years, in a Chicagoan before that, I would have to figure out how to psych myself up to go on the Autobahn as a driver, right? So that's a great way to put it in context. And then what do you need to do? And then the thing that I also hear you saying in this answer, Laila, is understanding the nuances. At first, it's just like, oh, there's different kinds of cartoons. Whoa. And then also another thing, and we'll probably wrap up with this question, but I'll wrap up too. There's lots of other great questions here, and I might take a couple minutes to after. But anyway, oh shoot! Now I just got sidetracked.
The nuances.
Anyway, it was another good point. And it will come back someday. Yeah, so oh my gosh, this has been such a great discussion. But I do want to honor that we're here for a swift hour. I'm going to look at all these other questions. I encourage you all, if you want to ask your question or hear more about anything, you can always get on my calendar for a voiceover once-over call. If you go to the website www.thevodojo.com and scroll down, there's a place where you can get a free 15-minute one-on-one time with me. Basically, finding out where you're at and where you want to be. Or we can talk about one of these questions or something like that. And then Laila has something that she wants to share in terms of making herself available as well.
Yes. I don't normally advertise it just because my schedule can be a bit hectic, but I do, when schedule permits, coach individually for animation and gaming, and you can reach out to me directly at lilaberzins.com. I'll just put it in the chat so I don't just spell my name. Really quick, I wanted to, because I saw an important post and it ties into something else I wanted to say before we go. There was a question about where to find rates when you're, to quote rates. GlobalVoiceAcademy.com has a list. It's the GVAA rate guide, globalvoiceacademy.com. You can also find Uncle Roy on that site. He does individual coaching, because I know there was a question about that as well. Roy Yokelson, antlandproductions.com is his website directly. But the Global Voice Academy has a series of free resources for talent, so you can look on the rate guide under, I believe it's career resources, and then that you can use that as a general guideline.
Yeah, and it's really important. It's really, really important because you can start a lemonade stand for 25 cents and it's really cute. But if the going rate for lemonade is $4.50 a cup, and you're really going into business, sell your cup, do what you can to get to that rate. And then, GVA puts a lot of time and energy into creating that. So if you do use the resource, please add a donation to it, because it's a huge resource that they spend a lot of time that's available for all of us. So in terms of what's going on at the dojo, it's actually a really, really exciting time. Of course, these happen every month. It's usually me, Dan, answering tech questions, and then a wonderful guest from someone who's one of our fabulous colleagues who we love and adore and have all sorts of other insights to share. Our fall session is coming up. So you should do voiceover intensive if you're just starting up. We do a live weekend September 8th and 9th, and we do a virtual 6-week class that'll start at the end of September. If you are halfway in, if you're halfway on your journey and want to go all the way in, like imagine all the things that Laila said, well, you have to do this and you have to do this. So you got to be reaching out, you got to be going to workshops, you got to be studying with people, you got to just, the VO Dojo, the essence of the VO Dojo and our full Mystery to Mastery program is going into full training. Like all of those things in one place. So check it out. Give me a call about a voiceover once-over. If you need anything from Dan Leonard, check him out at homestudiomaster.com. He's always available. And I'm going to take a couple minutes after this. I have a few minutes, so I'm going to type out some other answers. Laila, I know you got stuff to run along with. So www.thevodojo.com. Get on my calendar. Come back at the beginning of every month, the first Wednesday of the month, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Laila, thank you so much for
having me.
Part of this is super fun, and we'll look forward to having you back. And Fight Club starts in September too. If you're working pro, we do that live once a month in LA and virtually once a month wherever you are. And in order to play in Fight Club, you need a demo. You need to be demo repped and booking. But anybody can audit the virtual Fight Club. So it's a huge, you want to see like how things really work, step on to audit that Fight Club, because it's working pros on both sides of the glass running through an audition process. So it's pretty cool.
It's pretty rad.
All right, my dears, it's 11 o'clock exactly. I so love that there's so many of us here. Come back again. I look forward to talking with y'all. And Laila, have a great day.